Yeah, sir. Good evening, sir. So I would like to start the my first question with your great initiative of Honeybee Network. So why did you choose to start the Honeybee Network, and what inspired you to build a career in the field of grassroots innovation?
Dhruv, it so happened that I, being a professor at the institute, had been doing various kinds of research, teaching, and consulting. And a lot of my consulting was based on collecting knowledge from people, data from people. And then I asked myself a question: how much of what I have collected has gone back to the people? Even though I used to share the findings, but then I was not happy. I also asked that the income which I accrued through my consultancies based on the knowledge that I collected from people, what part of that income has gone back to people? Now, since not much had gone back directly, I tried to argue with myself. I said, look, I'm working on public policy, I'm trying to improve the conditions for them. But my heart said that you are trying to beat about the bush. You are not answering the question as to what share people have had in your income, which you agree accrued to you largely because people shared their ideas, their insights, their innovations in good faith with you. So I realized that just as moneylender exploits the people in money market, landlord may exploit in land market, trader may exploit in commodity market, I was also an exploiter. I was exploiting in people in the knowledge market. This realization, I've shared this before, but I must repeat this. This realization was very painful because if I'm going to teach the course on public policy for inclusive development or social justice, and at the back of my mind, I'm going to get this feeling that I'm an unjust person, I am doing injustice myself, then the authenticity will be lost. I will not be able to see my students in their eyes, and I will not be able to talk with the vehemence and authenticity that I think a student deserve. So that's when this thought came that there must be something done about it. So as it goes that I must have seen an honeybee, and it occurred to me that honeybee does what we intellectuals don't do. Honeybee does cross-pollination. It connects people to people, it connects flower to flower. So am I connecting people to people? And if I have to connect people to people, it has to be local language. It cannot be English. Second question was, how much of my work is shared in local language then? Second, am I sharing with people the knowledge that I have collected with whatever value I have added? That has to be knowledge, local language. Third question was, are people being acknowledged or they are becoming anonymous? So I become famous by writing about them. But what about the people? They remain anonymous. That was not fair. So third principle was giving voice, visibility, and velocity to the ideas of grassroots people. And fourth principle was and is that if we collect and get any income per diem, any income in any form, even if it is per diem, for or speaking fee for that matter, the reasonable share of that income must go back to the people whose knowledge we collected. So these four principles made me to start Honeybee Network. And as the story goes, we had some of my students, some of my teachers, and I realized that you can't cheat your student and your teacher at the same time. These are two relationships in which you have to be honest. And therefore, Honeybee Network also tried to create, it's a voluntary network. Any one of you can be a member of this Honeybee Network. You don't have to fill up any form. Basically, if you share these feelings, and I can tell you that there are students after 10 years, 20 years, 30 years have come back to me and said, there was a student recently, Ramakrishnan, he was in 2006, I think, 14 years ago, had done a voluntary assignment, gone to that. Recently, he was in estate business, real estate, and so on, grew up in life. Then he said, Professor, I still remember that assignment you had given us to go to tribal area of Udaipur and study the way people live. I want to do something. I don't think I have done back. I've given back something to them. And I said, all right, let's discuss and talk about it. So I must say that a lot of students have, in that sense, reinforced my faith that this philosophy works. It may take time for different people. Some people, it may not work at all. That's fine. But I recently, Harsh Bisht of last batch of FEVM, or maybe one back before, I think, 2 batches before, saw my post that I needed some people to volunteer for certain activities in helping the common people, communities, and so on. And he said, Professor, give me some work. I have time in weekends, I can do that. 2 students, I must give another example. 2 students, Zaigam Khan and Devika Kaushal, were in my class on SMIPR, Strategic Management of Intellectual Property Rights, second year course. They were at that time students of IIM Nagpur. And during that time, Nagpur students used to come to IIM for doing some courses. So they got very good marks in my class and I was very impressed. When they joined the job, they said, sir, we have some work on the weekend. Can you give us some challenging assignment, something that nobody has done? And I said, all right. So why don't you make a database of abundant patents in USPTO? Abundant patent. That means they were granted and then they were abundant. And can you imagine? Both of them have made a database of 0.9 million abundant patents of USPTO at techpedia.in/patent or gyan.org/patent.php. This database is unique, only of its kind, and it is common, open source. Any entrepreneur, any startup which wants valid knowledge but free of cost can use this database. So students have made such a huge contribution to the network that I cannot get tired of explaining that. But I'm just saying this, that it has inspired not just students, it has inspired farmers, artisans, mechanics. It has inspired policymakers. The newsletter that we bring out in several languages, Odia, Hindi, Gujarati, English, Tamil. Now we are starting in Kannada and Telugu by volunteers. None of them is paid for this work. In fact, none of the volunteers is paid for anything that they do. So much so that even the IPR attorneys, Anand and Anand, Surana and Surana, various companies, top companies of the country which file patent, don't charge us the fees for filing patents. So our average cost, we have filed, when I was looking after NIF, we had filed more than 1,000 patents, and our average cost was 15,000 rupees. 15,000, including the fees paid to the patent office. It will cost at least 2.5 lakh rupees for Indian patent. We filed 3 patents, but they were granted in 2003 in US. I didn't pay a penny. At that time, this firm was THT, and then it was acquired by KLNG, Kellen Gates, Bill Gates' father's company. Tom Turano, not a penny they charged. They said, Professor, you are trying to prove that IPR can work for the poor? Nobody believed that. People thought IPR's patent work only for multinational companies, for rich corporations. I said, no, the only resource in which poor people are rich is their knowledge. If that is also taken away without any due recognition and compensation, then what are they left with? Nothing. So I would say that, we'll discuss various public policy initiatives that we took within the country, but also globally, which proved new paradigm of knowledge-rich, economically poor people can empower themselves and enrich themselves only on the basis of knowledge. Nothing else they had. They didn't have land, they didn't have much wealth. So you might recall that the subtitle of my book, Grassroots Innovation, published by Penguin Random House in 2016, was Mind on the Margin Are Not Marginal Minds.